Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. I'm Suzy Vance, and I'm here with Jamie Miller from Unity Foundation in Michigan City. Jamie, how did you end up at Unity? What is it that drew you to Unity? And what do you do
Well,
there?
the story's really interesting.
I love
I'm going to
those.
start with something that people don't like to hear, but someone died.
Oh,
That's how I got here. That's how I got my job at Unity.
okay. So let's have a little more detail.
Of course.
You've intrigued us.
Not to be shocking, but that's really how it happened. I worked for 10 years at a sales agency, and the owner was John and Brenda Levin from here in Michigan City, and he passed away, and I had been there about 10 years, but John, unbeknownst to me, gave me so many skills that after his wife closed the company, she asked me to stay for 3 years. The next thing you know is, what am I going to do now? Well, a job at Housing Opportunities came along. And I started as their development officer because I had so many skills that John had taught me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Give me an example.
Well, computer skills ramped up, social media skills. I had to work with vendors and a whole sales force to coordinate their trainings, the giant trade show in Chicago, because we had a place at the Merchandise Mart, 7,000 square feet of showroom.
Ooh.
So coordinating social media, you know, how to do PDFs, uploads, downloads, and I controlled a lot of the computer system, which was SharePoint at the time, putting reps on and off and maintenance and database uploads and customer service management systems and coordinating 13 reps over 9 states and so much more. But it was fabulous. And I didn't realize just the different communication skills I learned, speaking, writing, etc., would lead me to be able to do a job in development. And development isn't asking people for money all the time, like all of you think it is. It's about developing a relationship. So if you look back, a lot of what I was doing was customer service.
Right.
And you've got to be great, follow through or customer service, speaking to people.
Right.
Being excited about what you do is half the battle, isn't it?
And being excited about what they do.
Right. So development went great. And I opened up this magazine that said Unity Foundation on it. And I found out we had an endowed fund for housing opportunities.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, well, what's that? So I went to see Maggie Sparts. And I said, Maggie, what's an endowment fund? Well, to bring you up to speed, she needed a development officer. And I was the one who kept coming back for about a 1.5 year period to hone my skills, because something Unity does help nonprofits to execute their plans, especially in development. Tell her about what a fund is, how it works at Unity. And so I became educated, and she said, I need a development officer. So I got the job. It's like,
what a fit.
8 years later, here I am. So I get to speak with lots of great people every day, like Suzy, I met.
Who want to do things.
Who are interested in philanthropy. Philanthropy as in, it's a big word, it's just love of mankind. It's love of a passion for something that's charitable and good where you live and beyond.
That you want to help make happen.
Right. So Unity is a toolbox. I had learned it's not this big organization that has lots of money. We're a toolbox for the community to
It's a great way to
decide which tool they want to use that we offer to do something awesome that they're passionate about, that's charitable and legal, of course.
Of course.
So that's how I got my job at Unity. And it, it's fun.
So you've been making other people's dreams come true.
Really, other people's passions. When you think about Unity, you see that we give 1.5 million back to the community. It's not our money. Don't think Unity's rich. We're not. Yes, we have our own operating fund, but anybody can give to Unity or use Unity.
Right.
And some of the smartest people might have a problem. I have some stock. I could sell it. But could I give it to charity? Yes, you can, and we can execute that. But
And not only that, it seems to me that Unity knows what's going on in the community.
right. So we have nonprofits that are based here. And a nonprofit's board member, a person like you, who has a passion for a nonprofit, could start what we call a fund at Unity. It's just a simple agreement. It's endowed, meaning all the gifts that roll into it stay there, aren't spent, but they earn interest because we invest it.
Generating money.
Generating
And
money.
then that fund can use those generated funds.
Right. Every year, if you have a fund at Unity, you get a paycheck.
You know, my favorite story about that is a long time ago when I was still practicing law, somebody asked me to help a woman who was bedridden in her house and who was clearly about to leave us. And she had all this money and she didn't know what to do with it. But she loved her cats.
Mrs. Polad.
And she was so worried that after she died, what would happen to her cats? And so she decided to create a fund that allowed people who have passed on to be sure their animals received the funding that they needed. Now, it doesn't mean that Joe, the cat, receives money that you administer, but it means that that money goes into some organization that's a nonprofit that does attend to animals that are left.
That's true. Orphan animals.
Yes.
Mrs. Polad's goal wasn't to help a nonprofit that helps animals, like our Humane Society, Independent Cat Society. Her goal or her field of interest was orphan animals, period, because no one else was going to take my kitties. There was no one left in my family. So she set up a fund at Unity. All of her wealth went into that. Now the output is a couple of things. What if something happened like an economic downturn, COVID? These are times when maybe a lot of residents in our area can't afford to keep their animals. So now that animal becomes orphaned, it's dropped off at one of these centers. There's quite a few now. Well, gee, last year we budgeted for so many orphan animals. We kind of know how many average come in.
Really? How many?
And, we don't, but the agencies do. So they can apply for a few more dollars to help with just that little portion, orphan animals, especially in times of need when they are out of resources.
Now, these funds are not just for animals. They're for like teacher funds to help teachers get better at what they do or do a program they want to do.
That's true.
Or all kinds of things.
It's whatever you're thinking, come to us, talk about it, and maybe you can do something great, with your idea, and think about it. When you and I are no longer here, Suzy, these things go on forever. They're
Yes, they
in
do.
perpetuity. So we have scholarships. You can set one of those up. We have teacher grants.
Right?
We have field of interest funds like Mrs. Polad. We have agency funds, which are for nonprofits. And the coolest thing is, I love this one because this allows you to sprinkle gifts all throughout the community. And this is called a donor advised fund.
Yes.
And that's kind of cool because if you start it now, by the time you retire, that's like your gift account for charity. You don't have to pull money out, right?
No.
So that's kind of nice to have this fund there for you and your family to sprinkle gifts.
Right.
And you can also leave a couple of your children's names in that. We call them successor advisors. So
There
once
you
you're not
go.
here, the giving keeps going. It's a great way to show your family to be charitable. Sure, all kids don't live here, but boy, if they do, that's
They
great.
care about where they grew up,
They
probably.
care about where they grew up. You're so right. And they have an opportunity to give to the things they love in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what we do is here, but you can still give beyond your community. As long as it's in the United States, we have a connection to you're going to find new charities. That's why donor advised funds are cool.
Right.
Have you ever changed your mind about a charity?
Oh, yeah?
It happens. So this
does.
allows you to sprinkle gifts. You advise where it goes. Our board says, yes, that's a legal entity. It's charitable and good. And the gift goes out.
That's great. So, did you ever think you would be doing this when you were a kid?
Absolutely not. I had no idea what philanthropy was. When I was a kid, I'd donate my time. I would donate sometimes a little treasure, like, we were building a memorial when I was in middle school for veterans. So I went around with my box to the neighbors and would ask, and everybody would put quarters in it. I didn't know that I was a philanthropy-based person until I got the job and said, oh, wow, people do that for a living? I have the best time doing it. I get supercharged to see how passionate people are. I cry a lot because sometimes maybe a family comes in because someone's passed within the family and they set up a fund in
Their
honor
name.
and memorial of that person. But you get to choose the purpose. Like the purpose might be environmental.
Right.
The purpose might be for the arts.
Right.
Like you love the arts. So you just decide what your passion is, do something great, and feel really good about how you're making a difference. So you can start a fund, or you can give to your favorite fund, at uflc.net. You can see them all.
So this, in a way, is something you stumbled on.
It is.
So what would you say to someone who is bored at their job, just lost their job, or is wondering as a student what on earth they're ever going to do? Do you have any advice you would give someone who's wondering?
Stop wondering. Start acting. Literally, go out there. Don't think as much about what kind of job I want. Think about what talents can I bring to a job that will enhance that job, and I'll get excited.
I've always thought that when you are in a struggle like that picking a volunteer activity that anchors your heart, you never know who you're going to meet.
That is true.
Or what it is that's going to come across your path, just like you.
Well, Janet Block helped me. After John had passed, I found another job, and it was a little transitional period, between when he passed, the business closed down, but I went to Janet Block and said, I've got free time. Can I volunteer? I love Lebesnick Center for the Arts. Then we started talking about this philanthropy thing. And then I'm like, Janet, I've got an interview at Housing Opportunities. Will you help me? And she did. So she encouraged me.
Great.
She told me I was talented. She uplifted me in order to take that leap and do that interview.
That's fabulous.
Who would have thunk? You go to a place to volunteer, and you get a lot more out of the volunteering than you thought.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this.
You're welcome.
I hope it lights someone's fire.
I do too.
It's fun to be passionate about what you do.
Right. It is. But just remember, come to Unity if you're just interested in what different charities are even available. We have over 350 different funds and more coming every year, because what your passion is can be created into a lifelong legacy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living, Jamie Miller. See you next time.